Welcome to the webinar, the first of our three-part series on AP Potential. We're going to let some folks join the webinar and get logged in. If you didn't get the notification, we are recording this webinar, which means we'll be able to edit it and then broadcast it afterwards to those of you who are a part of this meeting, as well as those of you who have signed up and were not able to attend. My name is Tom Leitz. I am the Associate Director for Training and Development for MASSP, and I'm joined by a wonderful cast who I will introduce in a few moments for our panel today. This is the beginning of a three-part leader-to-leader series around the College Board's AP Potential Letters. On Friday, September 30th, the MDE released a memo from Dr. Rice. That memo outlined a new initiative in which the MDE will be sending out those AP Potential Letters home to every student statewide based on their PSAT, SAT 8, or PSAT 8, 9, 10, and NMSQT to provide that information to parents and those community members. So we want to make sure that we're giving you all the information you need to know to navigate that. And over the course of this three-part series, which we'll outline in a minute, you will get all that. So as you're coming on, please take a moment to introduce yourself in the chat. I see that Tammy Jackson, one of our panelists, already done that, along with Wendy Zadeb, our executive director, who's joining us. Take a moment, let us know who you are, where you're from, what your role is, and then take a second, if you can, to think about in this webinar format. We're gonna use the Q&A tab to ask questions, but perhaps there's something that you want to address or that you're hoping to get out of this three-part series. You can feel free to drop that in the chat, and hopefully those and other questions will surface as this conversation builds. So before we get into today's conversation, I want to talk a little bit about what the three-part series is going to do. Today is all about growing your programs and how to ensure opportunity exists for our students. I heard a wonderful speaker who talked about the idea of excellence is distributed equally. Unfortunately, opportunity always isn't. This is about how we can utilize those AP Potential Letters to find classes that you could be offering and help our students find the right fit for them. We're not talking about shoehorning kids into classes here, but truly looking for opportunity for growth within your schools, within your programs, and that opportunity for students to find excellence more equally. Our next session on October 19th, we're going to be looking closely at using the AP Potential portal in the College Board website, getting into that work and accessing that student potential. MASSP will be joined by the College Board's Ted Gardella and Carrie Amana, who are going to work through kind of that dashboard, how it works and how to get into it and access that information, and then how to use it from there. Finally, on October 27th, we're going to look at new features in that portal, including access to AP Seminar and Research and how those classes might benefit your AP programming at your school, as well as other options to expand that opportunity for your students, including CLEP and its interaction with modern states, the way that might pay for some of those exams and so on. So a lot of great opportunity built in to this three-part webinar series. But today, I'm a little biased, and I think we get to start with the best right up front. We have an exceptional group of panelists with us today to help you look at this AP potential change from the state as a real opportunity for growth in your program. So our goal for the first of these three webinar series or parts, the first part of this three-part series, is to provide you with a brief understanding of what's coming with those AP letters, the AP potential letters that are going to be sent out by the state, when and why. Secondly, we want to show you how that information can be used to grow your own program at your school and to build that capacity from both a small school and large school lens. And we're fortunately graced with the amazing Jolene Clark from Frankenmuth High School and Tammy Jackson, our MASSP Director of Path to Leadership, but also former principal at East Jordan High School. The third part we're going to look at is, should you not be able to provide classes because of smaller numbers, et cetera, what are those opportunities that exist outside? And we're very fortunate to have Mike Dallinger from Michigan Virtual here to talk about some of the opportunities that Michigan Virtual has to support schools in this capacity. And then finally, last but certainly not least, we want to talk about, once you've used that information and you've learned what courses you might want to offer, how do we build that capacity internally within our buildings. And for that, we brought on Rod Franchi, who is a AP history teacher at Novi, but also the co-director of Novi's AP Summer Institutes program. And he'll speak not only about those programs, but generally about the value that comes from those AP Summer Institutes and just really how we can leverage our own resources, the resources external to us as far as Michigan Virtual, and using those AP potential letters to really grow these programs. So I hope you're as excited as I am. This is a fantastic group. Those are our learning targets for the day. So without further ado, we're going to jump into this. And I'm going to kind of lay out the landscape for where this is, and then turn it over to a much more capable group of people, our panelists today, to talk to you about those details. So we know those AP potential letters are coming. As I said, on September 30th, Dr. Rice talked about the fact that AP potential letters are going to be released starting in November of this year to all students that have taken the PSAT or NMSQT tests. So if you were a principal who already sent these out, this is not going to be a surprise or a challenge to you. However, we still wanted you to make sure that you knew that they were coming out. If you aren't somebody who sends these out, we wanted to make sure that you understood what actually comes with this. So as you can see on the graphic, which is an AP graphic from the College Board, it talks about what their process looks like and how they look at those PSAT and NMSQT to evaluate student capacity to determine whether or not they have the ability to jump into one of those AP courses. So the idea is using aggregate numbers and taking a total group of kids who have taken those pre-tests and moving forward, that we're going to be able to then know which kids have a chance of earning some potential. So if you look at this next screen, it shows you a little bit of what the old sample roster looks like. Now, this is changing a little bit going into this year. And in our next session, we're going to work with the College Board to get into that interface. As I was joking just before this, walking out of the principalship, I didn't realize how much access to information I had lost. But what the long short of this process is that the AP potential letters are designed to tell students if they are in that aggregate group based on their their PSAT or NMSQT scores to earn at least a 3 or better on that test. So they look at averages. Those averages tend to be fairly broad. The new interface will have the same information and the same pieces in it, and hopefully be a little easier to navigate through. And as I said, we'll find that out next time. But the idea here is we want to make sure that we know that we have a group of students who are going to be told, hey, you could do well in one of these AP courses. As a principal who lived in this world, my shocker was always that these letters included a lot of things in them, in courses that in some cases students had already taken or were registered. So remember, these are going out in November, which means for most AP classes outside of a half-year class like AP Economics, those or AP Government, those courses are already in progress and we're not registering kids for this year. So the nice part about this process is it's really looking forward to what we're doing for scheduling this January, February, and moving forward. The AP letter itself, that AP potential letter, is going to look like what you see on the screen. This is a dummy letter that shows it would have the students in there, and I appreciate Jolynn for providing this to me as an example. And it's going to talk to that student and to their parents and guardians about where those kids could be successful. Students also have access to this through their College Board portal, their student access portal, where they can see the courses that they would be successful in based on these scores as well. As you can see on there, it's going to list out all the courses that those students would be potentially able to score 3 or better on based on their PSAT or NMSQT score, which means, again, those could be courses that for a junior, they're already registered into, right? Because we know that's a year that a lot of kids push in and start taking multiple AP courses. So we want to make sure that you're prepared for those questions of why am I getting this letter? My kid's already registered for, English language or English lit, right? Whether they're senior or junior. So we want you to know what this is going to look like and where it is. Fortunately, aside from the letters that are being mailed out, and there was a question in there that are the letters going to be sent directly from the Department of Education, and they are. So MDE is going to be sending these out to all students. So they are bypassing schools and school districts and sending these directly out, which means whether you planned on it or not, your parents are getting these at home. The College Board, in partnership with MD, is planning on having two webinars. The first is tomorrow, and the next one is next week on October 24th. The really nice part for you, and I'll drop those links if you wanted to register for those as well into the chat, is that you don't have to, because on our next series of this three-part webinar, you're actually going to have Ted and Carrie guiding you through this process, how to walk through the AP Potential portal in your College Board sign-on, and let you know everything that you need in order to do that. But like I said, we'll drop the links into the chat so you have those as well. We'll also drop a link into the chat on Michigan's AP resource, which I assume will be updated with those new webinars, though right now it's still the old webinar with the old format. So it's not a great deal of help at the moment, but we're all waiting for those to come out, so we'll be able to go into those next steps. So as always, MASSP has your back because we're going to have those sessions here. You're here, so you're already registered for that second session, which is going to go through that College Board portal and get there. So that's kind of the lay of the land, what's happening. So we know that in November, those letters are going to start being sent out by MDE to parents of 9th, 10th, and 11th grade students throughout Michigan. That way, with that being said, you're going to have to be ready for some of those questions, and more importantly, hopefully get ready to think forward about how you're going to expand your programs based on that information and what you can use. So to do that, we're actually going to turn it over to two people who, as I said, are far more apt and intelligent about this than I am, the amazing Jolynn Clark and Tammy Jackson, who will take you through this next part about how, once those letters come out, once you have access to that AP Potential portal, you can jump into digging into those numbers, seeing where opportunities are, and begin expanding your program. So Jolynn, you want to take over?
Sure. Hello, everybody. I'm Jolynn Clark. I'm the principal at Frankenmuth High School, and wanted to just share some information and background on, I guess, where we are with AP, how we've utilized some different opportunities to grow our program over time. I actually was cleaning out some office files over the summer and found some old dot matrix printed with the little holes on the side. Score reports from AP exams from the early and mid 80s. So we've apparently had AP exams being taken for a very long time here in Frankenmuth. At that time, though, everything was, hey, a student has done really well in this class. Let's encourage them to take the AP exam at the end of the year. And that kind of started us off. And then by 2002, when I was hired in, that was the first year they were offering a separate standalone AP English Language and Composition course as an alternative to regular English 12, the required for graduation type of class. So that's where we have found some of our successes, was by adding in on-level options, alternatives as like AP classes. So instead of, you could take regular world history, you could take the AP version of world history. And so you can kind of see over time, our numbers have grown, certainly from my first year as principal was 2008. And to where we are now. We had some great growth there in the middle because we went to a weighted grading option for students, which really encouraged our B and C students. Your A students are going to be your A students. They're going to excel regardless, right? But your B and C students might be a little reluctant to take this college level chance and course. But with that grade bump, that was kind of a big piece for growing our program. So we have continued to kind of add those on-level options and review what opportunities we have had to grow different programs on site. But you can kind of see that we have a number, usually between 5 and 9 classes that we offer on site. And again, the asterisk ones on that screen kind of show you which ones we offer as an alternative to the on-level required course. But we also offer a number through Michigan Virtual because we have a number of students who want to take classes we don't necessarily have an instructor for, or some of these honestly only have 1 or 2 students who want to take the course. So we couldn't offer a section of it for that, but it kind of gives you an idea there of the different classes that we have offered. Our process. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Really quickly, just for perspective, how many students does Frankenmuth High School have that you're pulling from to get students into these courses?
We're usually right around 550. This year, we're about 530. So this is about a quarter of our students. And this represents one option for AP in grade 10. That's where we start with our AP World Language option, or I'm sorry, World History option. And then from there, it's just that one class in 10th, and then the rest are in 11th and 12th grades. Unless they elect to take an AP, they can do that at any grade level as an elective. So that's kind of how we, I guess, where we've been and where we're going, or where we are at the moment. Our process for enrollment in the spring, like many, we have course requesting, time frame, and the counselor and I go in and talk about different classes and options and how you can select, which classes you want to take for the following year. We have used the AP potential. We have used the letters at times, but we also have created postcards, and AP actually provided these at a conference I was at one point, and they were really cool postcards. We ended up making our own, but basically get something out to the students that says, hey, it looks like you've got this opportunity. If you're interested to learn more, or you might want to get more information, contact our guidance office. And so we usually give those out right in the spring, right when we're getting into course requesting. And then we do have an application that we have students complete indicating an AP commitment, understanding that AP classes are a college level course taught at the high school. And so you are going to have more work. You might have summer assignments, those kinds of pieces, just so that they understand that, as well as the component for anyone who's had to work in scheduling, who knows that once you lock into it, if it's a singleton AP class, it may lock your schedule and you may not have as many options for moving classes around and things like that. So just kind of give them that heads up as they're considering their course requests. We do send an additional letter home and ask parents and students to sign off if they are taking 3 or more AP classes in one semester, because we know that's a lot of work. That's a student who's taking on a big chunk of academic commitment, and we want them to be aware of that. We share this type of data that I shared here with you with our stakeholders, both at a board meeting as well as via online infographics and things like that, to try to promote the AP culture, the achievement culture, and say, hey, these are some great opportunities. And one of the best nuggets of data that we like to share is, if all of our students who took AP classes this year all enrolled at Michigan State this fall, pick a college. It doesn't mean you can pick whichever one, and you can figure out what their courses would have, or their AP exams would have related to in courses. And this year's group of 118 students would have earned over 300 credits at Michigan State University. And when you translate that into dollars, you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars of tuition savings. So we kind of like to promote it that way too, and kind of let parents know this is one way kids can get college credit while they're still in high school, and that's a great opportunity. But the best promotion is student word of mouth. Oh yeah, go ahead. Sorry,
just really quick. I love that, because I used to use a similar at Utica High, and we were about 1,500 students, so a little larger in level of aggregation. But one of the big sells was always, talking about, hey, this is a chance to take $100 investment in an assessment and turn it into something that could be upwards of $550 to $600 of credit, right? So you get a 4 or a 5, that return on investment becomes pretty practical for those parents. Like it's a pretty for sure scholarship. But let me ask you this question, if I could. Thinking about the AP potential piece and looking into that portal, I know one of the things that I did as a principal, and we were in a different situation than you, and which is why I love having you on here. I offered 24 different AP classes. So we didn't have a lot of variance from year to year. Our question was, are we running computer science, or how many sections of a class we run, but largely ran almost every class. How having that information of where you might have students that are capable or interested, that are capable and that might have interest in those classes, did that help you think about that scheduling piece you talked about just a minute ago, where you're looking at, okay, so what classes might we need in order to really make sure that we have the space for where our kids have capacity?
Absolutely. So a great example of that is last year was our first year with AP Computer Science Principles. And that was specifically because we had a number of students who were showing AP potential for a number of math and sciences, but AP Computer Science Principles in particular. And so it was kind of an opportunity to say, hey, is anybody who's currently on staff interested in learning more? And we do have one of our PLCs as an AP team that kind of focuses on things like, hey, should we move to weighted grading back when we did that? Or in this case, what should we be looking at adding and what opportunities do we have? So that group kind of really dug in, and we did have a teacher who was interested. So that's how we got that rolling, but it really was based on the fact that there were a number of students not only interested in taking the class, but that were showing the potential to be successful in it.
Awesome. Thank you. That helps a lot. I guess with that, before we go into some more questions, I'd really like, and it's funny from my perspective, I always have to remind myself that most schools in Michigan really sit between that 500 and 800 level when we're talking about larger schools, and there are a handful that are kind of giant schools like mine, and a lot of smaller schools, So for that, we are really fortunate to have Tammy Jackson here to kind of talk about her perspective and what she did back in her days at East Jordan. And what she helps as she guides new administrators through our MASSP programs to kind of build this. So Tammy, if you want to talk about that, and obviously we have Ryan Casey, who's our director of esports, as well as former principal up in the thumb, and also from that small school model. So if there's anything, Ryan, you want to jump in at with this, please do. But Tammy, go ahead.
Good, thank you. So in East Jordan, we were a school of about 400 at the high school, right around 100 at the graduating class. And traditionally, we were offering one AP course a year. So you would have an English AP course offered in your junior year, and then a AP Bio in your senior year. So you only had the opportunity to take 2 classes. And we were averaging only about 12 students in each of those classes. And it was becoming increasingly clear to us that our students in this rural school in northern Michigan were at a disadvantage by not taking AP courses when it came to being competitive for scholarships and being competitive for being accepted by the kinds of universities they wanted to attend. We had a really rigorous track of honors courses, and to this day I would tell you that without a doubt that track was as rigorous as AP courses, but it didn't get the recognition that AP courses get. Obviously, as you know, when you're applying for a college, they don't really look at honors courses at all, because you can call anything you want an honors course. And so they don't really recognize those. They don't give them a graded weight or a graded point system. And so therefore you're gaining knowledge, but you're not getting that edge of being more competitive.
And Tammy, I'm really glad you mentioned that, because as we talk about growing AP programs, I know there's some sense of we want to do this for the fact that we know those classes are good, and they do help. And Rod will talk a little bit about some of the statistics on that later, but there is a reality that there is a competition gap with kids, that if you have those classes, when those college admissions advisors, particularly in your tier 1, tier 2 schools, right? Your U of M's, your Michigan States, et cetera, when they're looking at strength of schedule. And at the end of the day, that strength of schedule matters for those kids. So if we can't offer some opportunity for those kids, they're at a disadvantage of other students. So I appreciate you surfacing that and talking about it.
Yeah, and I learned that because I sat on a committee that judged scholarships, statewide scholarships. And if you opened up that scholarship application and there wasn't at least 2 AP courses on it, you put it aside because it was not possible for it to get enough weight to be competitive as a finalist. And so then I was exposed to the AP Potential Report many years ago, and realized that we actually had a way to determine what students showed that they were ready to take an AP course. And so putting that all together, I pulled together my juniors and seniors in a committee, and I sat down with those students and I said, why are you not taking the AP course we offer? What would it take? What are the barriers that prevent you? And they were crystal clear on the reason that they would not consider taking AP courses. And one of them was because their GPA would be impacted. We are very lucky in our community that our students are given well over $100,000 in just local scholarships a year. So when you look at over $100,000 in local scholarships in a small class size, that's pretty significant. And they were saying, I take one AP course, my grade point goes down, and I'm no longer going to get these great scholarships. And so what we did is we said, well, how about if we weighted the courses? How about if you could be on a 5.0 scale for taking it? And that became attractive to them. And then we said, and then how about if we put a cluster of classes together that you must take at least 2 out of in order to be considered for honors recognition at graduation. So that removed that barrier, and they were all for that. And then, of course, they said, well, we're just too busy with extracurricular activities. So when you go from no AP to some AP, it is a shift. I mean, obviously, as time went on, people became more used to that. But the initial jump in was like, whoa, I don't think I can do that. And so one of the things that we did is we attempted to extend our AP courses to a 2-block. Now, we were lucky enough that we offered 7 blocks of classes. So it's a big stretch to do this when you only offer 5 or 6. But when you offer 7, students have room to take more elective courses. And so we said, or how about if AP Bio was 2 hours instead of 1? So you had extra time to get extra support. And then we said, and how about if you take 2 AP courses at one time, you can elect to take an AP lab, which means it's an additional hour. And so what we would do is we would say, if you're taking a AP bio class and you have time in your schedule to pick up an AP lab class, we would assign you to the AP bio teacher another hour, and you would report in with that teacher, but then you had the luxury of working in the commons area for that entire hour to just work on AP coursework. And so we did that we offered that. And then we often had a seminar class that our students had. It was called A Million Things, but we would assign students to their AP teacher during that seminar block or that homeroom block. So they just had more time and exposure to their AP teachers during that time. And then we started to address our scholarships. And we first went after our local scholarships, and we said, would you consider changing the way that you give away your scholarships and consider adding some weight to more academically rigorous courses? And so that our kids who were in AP courses became more competitive for those scholarships. And many of those scholarships were willing to do that. But what really did that was the most significant is we came up with an AP scholarship that every student who took an AP course would receive. So if you took every AP course you took, you automatically earned $500, regardless of how you did on the AP exam. And then it was a gradual increased amount up to the highest score would receive $1,500. So if you scored at the highest level on those AP exams, you received $1,500 per AP course. And people say, well, how can you afford to do that locally? Well, obviously we had to come up with a funding resource for that. And what we did is we created our extravaganza, which was a night out that really brought in the amount of money we needed to give the kids this scholarship money. And that's how we funded that. And then, of course, they said, well, we can't afford to take the AP exams. And so we used, of course, the fee reduction that was given for those. But, you have a lot of kids who are in a position that they can't afford the exam but don't qualify for the fee reduction. And so for any student who we considered to be in a financial need, we covered the cost of their AP exam and we just deducted it from their AP scholarship. So it was,
Did you have a particular, because I know one of the challenges most principals face is that fairness issue, right? Like, how are we being transparent and fair about this? Did you have some sort of process by which, there were certain, did you as a group create indicators, obviously outside of that free and reduced lunch category, to identify that so that you didn't have to face those challenges, or were you able to just kind of do it the way you did it?
Well, we based it on the at-risk student report that you have to create each year. And that at-risk includes more than just financial. It includes a parent who's not graduated from high school. So there's all kinds of indicators. But quite honestly, we knew our students so well that we were just able to say, their parents might make enough money, but their parents won't pay for this. So we're going to include that student in that. So
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All this together, what it ended up doing is it ended up allowing us to offer 4 AP courses a year and had an average of 20 to 25 students in each AP course. So we, in effect, increased AP involvement by almost 400% by addressing these barriers. And I don't know if this exact program still is running today. I know that they do offer AP courses, and so some form of it is, but I can tell you over the 4-year period that I was involved with this program before I left East Jordan, it was incredible what it did for our students and exposure to AP courses.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you, Tammy. I appreciate it. Ryan, anything you have to offer or add on to that?
Honestly, Tammy covered a lot of the, I think, similar strategies between her and Jolynn that we used as well. I know when I was at Croswell Lexington, we also had an early college. So in order to be able to get those students to that, that credit-bearing associate degree mark when they completed a 5th year of school, the AP courses were absolutely crucial, because we were not close enough to campus, the community college campus, in order to be able to get these all done through normal college courses or dual enrollment. So we had to utilize AP courses to do so. And so we used a lot of these things in terms of removing barriers that Tammy mentioned, the weighted grade, and how we changed from a Vail Sale program to a senior scholar program enticed a lot of students, because then they had a better, maybe a better chance of being honored during graduation, because AP courses and a weighted 5.0 grade scale impacted that opportunity. We, same thing, really tried to push the testing. We actually ended up having to create a policy as well, because sometimes we would have kids say, I don't think I'm going to do very good on the test. I don't want to take the test. And so the agreement was, in order to take an AP course, was basically if they had like an 80% or higher, then they were required to take the test. And then we would get into how can we help make them afford the test if that's a concern. But that was just another little thing that we had to deal with and utilize as well. But no, otherwise,
Ryan, you made a really good point that I didn't make, and I'm glad that you did. East Jordan was 40 miles one way away from the nearest college, community college. And so it really wasn't an option for our students to go to the college. And so then we started developing our own college courses within our building, where we had instructors come in and teach the classes. But then we found out, if you're offering courses in your building, a college, some universities don't accept the credits. And so that was just another bang that we received that said we can't even do that for our students.
Yeah, there are certainly a number of complications to doing this work, but what I think you hear universally is that, there's that field of dreams thing. If you build it, they will come. But if you build it and incentivize it, they come a little bit faster. So I appreciate some of those thoughtful ways of doing that. The beginning of my administrative career, I was at a building with just about 100 students per grade. So similar to where they were, versus the end where I was at a building with 500 students per grade. You get some different levels of efficiency in building classes there. But regardless of those formats, what I found was that there were still always gaps. There were places where we either didn't have enough kids to run a course, or we had some one-offs that maybe was something we weren't doing, a language, a particular type of course where we needed some help. And that's where I'm thrilled to have Mike Dallinger with us, because I want to turn this into the next section of this, which is what happens if your school doesn't offer those courses, and you have kids that are interested, because we all know at the end of the day, our job is to help find kids space for the learning that they want to do, to make it authentic. I've always had that pushback as a scheduler and then as a principal, that my job was not to make my schedule work for my teachers. My job was to make my teachers' schedules work for my students, right? And to push those classes that I thought that were important. But sometimes you just run into a brick wall. And fortunately, there's a really, really good ladder out there, which is what Michigan Virtual offers. So Mike, with that, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Tom. So a little background, just so I really understand that this issue. Retired in 2018 after 25 years of public education, 20 of them in high school administration. The schools I were at, we really pushed AP courses. I just thought there was a huge value in them to get kids ready for school. And that's how I ended up at Michigan Virtual, to be honest with you, because we were pushing a lot of these online courses. We offer 24 online courses, and I'm going to do a little bit of background. I'm a data guy, so I like to talk about some things. Over the past 22 years, Michigan Virtual has done over 37,000 enrollments in AP courses, because we know that there is a need out there. Our teachers are highly qualified. They're trained in AP. They're trained in the best pedagogy of online instruction. And over 35% of schools in the state of Michigan do not offer any AP courses. 55% of rural schools do not offer any AP courses. And if you want to talk about a robust environment, which is 3 to 5 or more, 76% of schools in the state of Michigan are less than that when it comes to offering AP courses. So the panelists here, even though they're small, Jolynn and Tammy, they did an amazing job of pushing those online classes in such a small school environment. However, it's not Utica. You're not going to have 24 courses. Michigan Virtual has those 24 courses where we can make sure the kid can take AP Psychology or AP Statistics, fitting it into core classes. You have those kids that have those one-offs, and maybe you can offer AP Calc, but that student also wants to take AP Spanish, and they want to take band and choir. And when you have those singleton courses, how are you going to be able to fit that one course, that one AP course that you provide into that student's schedule? Well, we're really talking about individualized instruction now. So how can we individualize this student's schedule to make sure that they can take all the courses they want? They can take that one class of band, that one class of choir, that one class of AP Spanish, and that one class of AP Calculus, even though it's offered during one of those hours. Let the students take it online. Make sure they can do that. Before we go on to the next slide, just one more comment about, there's so many schools that tier 1 and that tier 2 college. Personal example, my daughter's a senior right now. So we've gone through all these colleges and taken a look at them. If you're not taking those AP courses and you're not providing that opportunity to those students, you're really putting them at a disadvantage to those school districts that can offer all those things. And I know, hey, I was at a small school before too, 400 students when I first started. You know, we couldn't offer very many AP courses, but I had some really, really smart kids, but I couldn't take a single teacher and say, I want you to teach these 2 kids AP Psychology or AP Bio. It just wasn't fiscally responsible for my district. So we were able to do that through online. So if you go on to the next one, go ahead.
I want to say really quick, just highlight that, because even I appreciate what you said there, because even from a larger school, right, we had kids with those singleton classes in band and specialty programs and other things that larger districts may be able to offer. We still utilize Michigan Virtual via 21F and other things because those classes created overlap. And to your point, we wanted, and kind of what I said earlier, we want to make sure the schedule fit the kid, not fit the building when we could. And that's where those classes are, they're absolutely game changers for a kid who wants to be competitive, but it just doesn't fit into their schedule, because even though we have 1,500 kids, we're still offering only one section of AP Spanish, if we offer one. So I really appreciate you highlighting that.
Sure. So just to let you know a little bit about Michigan Virtual, we've been doing AP courses for over 22 years. Our students with 3, 4s, and 5s are higher than the state average, about 6% higher. And I'll even break this down farther for you if you want to take a look at the next slide. You know, we don't have our statistics yet for 2022, but you can see what the national mean score is, of 2.73, but the Michigan Virtual, and this is for all subjects, 3.25. We're about 91% where we exceed the Michigan and the national averages with our teachers and our students. Why is that? Again, our teachers are trained in doing nothing but the AP, and they work very, very hard at that. Also, let's face it, the students are selected. Do not just let anybody, this isn't COVID time, where just, hey, I want to take online classes, so let me come take online classes. No, let's really look at what the kids are and how their learning style is, and how we can make sure that they're successful. One of the things that I really want to stress when you do an online program is to make sure that you have a mentor. We have free guides that are online, but I really want to focus on the mentor fundamentals. It's super important that those students, and it does not have to be a certified teacher, it has to be an employee of the district, that they have someone that they can go to and say, hey, I'm having problems logging in. Hey, I don't know how to download this, or I don't know how to upload my assignment. Can you help me? Make sure that there's someone in your building. The success of your students really relies on that mentor. Jolynn has great mentors, always has, and they do a phenomenal job. And Jolynn, if you can give me 1 minute of how great your mentors do in the success of your program.
Absolutely. We're very fortunate to have a very consistent director of our online. He's our work-based learning and co-ops placements coordinator as well, but he has really taken on that role as overseeing enrollments, making sure students who, especially with APs, often they need a textbook, get their textbooks, all those materials and pieces like that. And then he trains whoever is going to be the actual online learning mentor for us, because he served in that role for a number of years. So now he kind of has the next level role, but he makes sure that the consistency is there in the two-way communication log, and keeping with the students, keeping up on where their progress is, and keeping us as administrators informed of that, because then we can also get involved if we get, hey, you're more than 25% behind on the pacing on this class, you got to get rolling. But having that mentor in place it's just key.
Thank you. And I'm glad you brought that up, the pacing. Online AP courses is a little bit different than your regular courses when they say, well, anytime, any place, any space. It's not true. Okay. What you have to have is the College Board says you have to be at this pace. You have to have these assignments done at this date. And that's just to make sure that you're prepared and ready for the AP exam. So the kids must know, well, if I take online, I can wait 6 weeks before I do anything. And, because I'm busy with football right now. So after football seasons, I'm really going to knock out AP. Does not work that way. It might work with other online providers, but it does not work that way with AP. You have a certain pacing guide that you have to complete. So Michigan Virtual can help you with all that. We train mentors. We train your administration. We can walk you through count day. Oh, I don't want to go online because then I got to deal with count day. We can walk you right through all that. Trust me, we'll make it a simple and easy process. So what's the cost? I just wanted to, we want to be upfront. Michigan Virtual is a nonprofit organization. Our cost for AP courses is $425 per semester. That might be different depending on what your local ISD has. And if you're in a county-wide consortium, that could drop. So give me a call, talk to me about it, and we can figure out what pricing works best for you. But I really stress that as a former principal, push your kids into AP, get them ready for college. It's not for everybody, but those kids that need it, and you want to provide them that opportunity. And with the AP potential letter that's coming out, parents are going to be asking. And if they say, well, you know what, my kid's really interested in statistics, and you don't offer AP statistics, make sure you say, well, maybe I can put them in AP Calc. That's not what they want. They want statistics. So let's make sure that you have that opportunity with Michigan Virtual to say, we can do that for you, and we can make sure that we get the students the individualized instruction that they want.
Mike, I really appreciate that. And I guess one question I'd ask, obviously, all the scores are phenomenal for what's happening with the MI or the Michigan Virtual students. Do you see pockets or areas that tend to get more tread in there, or is it pretty universal? Like, I know when it initially started, we saw a lot of languages being used at the Michigan Virtual level because there are obviously fewer of those classes, maybe advanced math. Do you see it having leveled now where it's all classes are widely used, or are there still pockets and areas where you see more kids or fewer kids?
All areas are widely used, but are there pockets? Yeah, your AP Englishes are going to be bigger, your AP Calcs and your AP Spanishes, because a lot of schools just can't offer those. And you might have a really smart kid that says, you know what, I want to take 9th grade English in 8th grade, or 9th grade Spanish in 8th grade. I come from a native speaking family, and this is what I want to do. And that's right for the kid. But by the time they get to their senior year, what option do they have? Well, right. Their option is AP Spanish, and there's no way that you're going to be able to offer all those courses. So those would probably be the 3 biggest pockets, because those are most widely looked at by colleges also, is to say, well, did you take AP English? Did you take AP Calculus? And so that 35% of schools that I said that have no AP courses at all, those are going to be the first ones that they offer, because they know their kids can be ready for it. You're not going to jump into AP Chinese when you haven't had Chinese for the previous 3 years. Right. But when you have had math the previous 3 years, and you know that student is ready, and their FST teacher, their algebra 2 teacher comes in and says, you know what, you're doing phenomenal. You really should take an AP class next year. That's why we see those pockets that are bigger. Obviously, English is the same way.
Yeah, thanks. I really appreciate it, Mike. A lot of great information there. And obviously, so if you have those one-off areas where you need to put a kid into an AP class, but you're not going to be able to run it, Michigan Virtual is a wonderful opportunity. But let's say you've got that 19 to 25 kids, you're hitting whatever that threshold is, that are popping up on your AP potential dashboard as students who could do well in a course, and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't have somebody who's trained in AP US history, or I don't have somebody who's trained in stats, or whatever it is. We want to make sure that you have some answers at how to get to that. And that's where I'm going to bring my friend Rod Franchi in, who is one of the co-directors of the Novi AP Summer Institutes. And from a broader perspective, Rod, if you could help, and you're an AP history teacher as well, I should say, right? And been doing that for a while, or yeah?
Well, yeah, I have been. I've shifted a little bit in my career,
Yep.
so I have not been doing that this year. I'm hoping to be back again, but not, at least not for this year. But anyway, I could talk a little bit about AP.
You know what, if you could just kind of talk about the opportunities that school principals might have to get their teachers enrolled in these programs, what kind of supports it provides. And because I think unless you've gone through this, you probably don't know what AP, Summer Institutes really provide. So appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Rod Franchi, and I have taught AP US history for over 20 years. I'm an AP US history consultant, so I present at workshops for teachers, and I'm also the co-director of the Novi AP Summer Institute. And so, yeah, I'm excited about this AP Potential program. I think it's great to close the gap and just get the word out so that more students who are up for the challenge, can take an AP class. Maybe they haven't thought of that. So I think this is a great initiative. I've seen the benefits of AP. Somewhere along the line, I think in ed school, I learned that a great assessment drives great instruction. And that's what I see in AP courses, is that the AP exams are, they're a little more special, they're a little higher level. And so everyone knows that there's going to be a little bit more of a challenge in the course. And so, in that lasting higher order thinking is the kind of thing that kids remember. A lot of kids remember about AP classes, and I've seen the growth. I've seen it myself. What kids can do. So I'm a big supporter of that. When a lot of times when a teacher finds out they're teaching an AP class, it's quite a challenge. It's kind of a different animal compared to other classes, and so. This is something rare that maybe the administrators that you see, but here teachers really want PD. They really want to go to a session like a week-long session so that they can learn the ins and outs of an AP course and how to prepare their kids for the exam. And so, what the College Board offers a ton of AP summer institutes across the country, and they offer, I think it's maybe around 200. And there that you're going to see, they get a trained consultant in that subject, somebody who's taught the course for a long time, and they're trained in how to, about the exam and the framework. The framework is kind of like the content or the skills that should be covered. Participants also learn about instructional methods. Everybody wants, some lessons or something they can take with them and bring into their classroom, and they get tons of that. And then there's something new called AP Classroom. It's this sort of support that AP offers, where they're practice questions and other ways of helping kids get through an AP course. And so for an AP Summer Institute, teachers are trained for 30 hours. And what I've seen is that, yes, teachers want to be there, and that when they're done, they feel good. They feel better about teaching an AP course. And so that's what, I think that's what we want. And that's for our kids and in the classrooms. We want teachers to feel confident about teaching AP. So that's what Summer Institutes can do. We can go to the next slide there, Tom. And so every year, there's this round of AP Summer Institutes, and registration opens in November. So everybody's kind of getting everything ready. The College Board looks at all the sort of sites to make sure everything looks good from across the country. And so they offer AP Summer Institutes that are either remote or in person. And there's a link that you can find AP Summer Institutes at AP Central, or you can just Google it, AP Summer Institutes at AP Central. And
I put them both into the chat already, Rod. So they're there.
Great. Okay, great. And so, so there, when registration opens, you can go and you can, search for, maybe the week that the teacher needs the course, or which courses, or geographically where they'd like to take it. And so, of course, we have our own, the Novi AP Summer Institute, and we pride ourselves in offering a fun week of learning. My wife and I are the co-directors, and this year we have 1 week in June, and we have 1 week in early August. And we are remote in 2023, which are, I think most of them across the country are remote, but we will be in person in 2024. And we offer the most popular AP subjects. Also, we offer an administrative discount. So if you sign up 3 or more teachers, we take $50 off of the fee per teacher. And so there's a chance to get on our mailing list. I don't know if you drop that in there. I'll drop it in the chat here. We have a form that you can fill out, and then we will get in touch with you when our registration opens, which is only a few weeks away. Or you can contact my wife Kristen or me, and I'd be happy to talk to you about AP Summer Institutes and the registration process, or our AP Summer Institute at Novi. So thank you, Tom. We are here to support AP Potential, and in supporting our teachers across the state.
So a couple of questions for you, Rod, if that's all right.
Yeah.
And one, obviously, Kristen's wonderful as well, and she's one of the APs over there at Novi High School, and does great work. If I could ask, you and I had a conversation about this, and I think it's important from the teacher perspective to talk. And I started out talking about not really shoehorning kids in, that this is about looking at where the real potential is, what's going on. Are there suggestions, as you've talked to people about building programs and about supporting their AP work, are there things that you try to encourage teachers or principals to look at, and where to, aside from the AP potential, where to see that potential in kids, and what kinds of things they should be looking for?
Yes, I think that this is a cause we can all get behind. That is closing the gap between the kids who are taking, a lot of kids who maybe they grew up in a household where their parents knew at age 5 that their child was going to take an AP course, but that's not the case for a lot of households. And so what I think that what the initiative is trying to do, one thing is to take a student who may not be immersed in the culture of AP, but maybe they'd be a great candidate for an AP class, and that kind of give them some exposure to what AP offers and encourage them to get in there. Because like I said, as an AP teacher, I've seen the growth. I've seen what AP offers. It's a special sort of curriculum that can really give students those sort of lasting higher order thinking skills. And so, there are a few things to do. There's, in some schools, they offer invitations to students. So at our school for a few years, we asked the 9th grade teachers in my department about, hey, which students do you think might really fit for an AP course, especially the ones that might not be thinking about this. So then we would send out, an invitation to them, and try to, just get them aware of what AP offers. So, I think there are some actions that schools can take to get the word out a little bit. I know they are already, but maybe even more so in the name of the.
No, I appreciate that. And as you and I talked, I'm very open about my experience. I stumbled into AP. I was a first generation college bound student. Mom was a bus driver. Dad was a car salesman. Schooling was not something we were pushed towards. And I had to have a great history teacher my sophomore year, and he happened to teach AP US. And so I took that class because I liked the person. And that kind of luck is what we're hoping this process starts leveling out. It shouldn't be luck or chance, but rather really informed conversations from educators who see that potential in a kid, or from administrators that say, hey, you're capable of doing this. Because sometimes that invitation alone, that letter, that postcard that Jolynn sent out is enough for a kid who didn't have that confidence to say, man, maybe I should do this. So I appreciate that bit, Rod. The other thing I'll say is, while you do not have to have a teacher go to a summer institute in order to teach an AP class, as somebody who started as an AP teacher at one point without it, and then went to it and learned what I was missing, it was like pulling the veil open and actually seeing everything clearly, right? It was when I didn't have glasses and putting the glasses on, you're like, oh my gosh, high def. I understand what I didn't see before. There is a tremendous value to that process. And I know there's a cost, but as a principal, I always made sure I budgeted enough cost to have at least 3 to 4 teachers go to APSI every summer, because in order to maintain all the courses that we had and what's new and what's coming, it was essential to have that. So Rod, thank you very much for your addition to this. I appreciate your time. Hopefully, as we've gone through this, you guys have a broader understanding of what that AP potential landscape is, when these letters are coming out, how they are. I think Jolynn and Tammy did a wonderful job of kind of mapping out ways to think about increasing access to those AP classes if they didn't. Mike was here to give us kind of a way to solve some of those gap issues. Not only whether you're offering 5 courses, as Jolynn talked about, or you're offering 25, like I was, those gap courses or a majority of your courses through Michigan Virtual is a great option. And then Rod kind of talked to us about building that instructional capacity within your school, which is a really important piece of this. Because it's my nature as a teacher, I'm going to ask you to take a second, if you can, to put some of your thoughts to words, because hopefully at this point you've connected with some of the things that some of our presenters have said. Hopefully they've extended some of your thought process a little bit. And if not, hopefully there are some challenges for you as you're thinking forward. So what I would love to see is if you can take just a couple of minutes. I put the link into the chat, as well as you could copy that bit.ly link that's on there, the QR code. There is a form. It's going to send you your feedback. So if you're one of those people like me who needs to put your stuff down into writing really quick, you're going to be able to do that, and then it's going to send it back to you. It's also going to give us some information as to what kinds of things we can do to help support your journey as you're on this. Some maybe if it's future webinars or just information that we can put up on the MASSP site under that principals toolbox, under AP courses, etc. We want to know what you need so we can help it. So I want to thank you for being here today. I want to thank our incredible panel. Mike Dallinger from Michigan Virtual, Tammy Jackson from MASSP, Jolynn Clark from Frankenmuth, the inimitable Ryan Casey, who was making sure I didn't mess anything up here, and of course, Rod Franchi. If you need to contact any of us at MASSP, and I threw Nina Davis in there as well, for as we're seeing more and more some of these AP, and certainly with the PSAT part scooting down into the 8-9 level. If there's any questions there, we want to make sure that you had the right folks to access there, our contacts, as well as social media pieces. So if you're looking for more information, you can get that. But remember, please don't forget to join us next week for part 2 of this webinar, where we're going to have Ted Gardella and Carrie Amana from the College Board to help walk through that process. And thanks to Jolynn again, we'll have some screenshots that'll help us do that. But we really, really appreciated everybody being here. We hope you got value out of this. And we look forward to continuing this series next week and the week after. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. If there are no other questions in the chat, we appreciate it, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today.